What's up, my fellow nerds? Welcome back to Tales of Nerdia. Today, I wanted to theorize about a possible inspiration for one of the most highly respected hunters we've met, Morel, the wild, confident, single-star sea hunter. And I'll also cover a little bit about Knov as well, but let's get right to it. Now, you've likely already heard or recognized that Morel's Nen is heavily inspired by rock and roll icons, but let's quickly cover those points just in case you haven't. First, we have Deep Purple, which is named after an English rock band of the same name, and I've seen some people say that the technique Morel uses to stay afloat during his fight with Leol is a reference to one of Deep Purple's famous songs, Smoke on the Water. The secondary name of Deep Purple is Purple Haze, which is also the name of a famous song by Jimi Hendrix. More on that later. Now, when fighting Poof, Morel uses Smoky Jail, which is also known as Jailhouse Rock, and this is a famous song by Elvis Presley. All of these references make a lot of sense in my mind and fit the wild attitude of Morel really well. But there's more to the inspiration of Morel than just his Nen. And that is this man, Ramo Nakajima, a respected cult novelist, essayist, copywriter, musician, and actor in Japan. He's pretty much done it all. And after looking into his work as well as some of the events of his personal life, I'm theorizing that Togashi used him as inspiration for Morel and possibly Knov as well. Here is his name written in katakana. And below it, you can see Morel's full name uses the syllables from Ramo's name. Now, in Romanji or English letters, Morel's name is M-O-R-E-L, but it's actually M-O-R-A-U. As you can see, the U at the end of Morel's name is added, and the yellow G was changed to a she by dropping the 1010. It's almost a perfect anagram. And this is something that I noticed from the Hunter x Hunter Wikia. So I decided to look into Ramo Nakajima further. Ramo-san, with his long, scraggly hair, is commonly seen wearing his sunglasses indoors, even during television appearances. This is a trait he shares with Morel, who never takes off his sunglasses throughout the entire series, even when he is underwater. Besides Ramo-san's works, which we'll get into shortly, Ramo-san was known for his wild lifestyle and abuse of drugs and alcohol. In 2003, he was actually arrested for marijuana possession. Remember Morel's technique, Purple Haze? Makes you wonder if Morel is smoking tobacco or something a little funkier. But even more interesting is the similarities between Ramo-san's imprisonment and Morel's technique, Smoky Jail. Just the name alone suggests a connection, but there is more to it than that. Ramo-san's sentence was for 5 years, but he was released early after only 10 months with an extended probation period. Now, during Morel's fight with Poof, he decides to release Smoky Jail, letting Poof out earlier than planned. The two discuss whether this was a good idea or not, with even the narrator chiming in. It makes me wonder if letting Ramo-san out early was also a bad idea, because upon his release, he started heavily abusing alcohol. Approximately 1 year after his release, after a late night of drinking at a bar, he falls down a staircase. The head injuries he sustained were so severe that he died 11 days later. But even before this incident, his love of alcohol was no secret. After all, one of his most famous novels, Tonight from Every Bar in Town, is about a recovering alcoholic. In Morel's case, we see several references to alcohol, such as this, and let's not forget this line about drinking himself silly. It's also worth noting that during Ramo-san's prison time, he was put in a mental institution and eventually wrote an essay about his trials called The Prison Diet. When I first read about this, I couldn't help thinking of Knov's Hatsu, Fourth Dimensional Condominium. There's plenty details about his Hatsu that are reminiscent of an insane asylum. For instance, the key he holds is handcuffed to his wrist like a prisoner. The classic white walls are reminiscent of the padded rooms we so often see in a mental health facility. The hunters spend a lot of time here preparing for the palace invasion as Knov slowly loses his mind. And since the hunters can't leave until the palace invasion, they stay nourished with what one might compare to a prison diet. Moving past his personal life, let's examine some of Ramo-san's work. Now, I will admit it is pretty hard to find an English translation for these, but I was able to get at least a few short summaries of his novels. The first that stood out to me was Ramo-san's famous work Buta no Gadara, or The Pigs of Gadara, a fictional novel inspired by a biblical story. The earliest version of this story exists in the Gospel of Mark, described as taking place in the country of Gadarenes, whereas the Gospel of Luke has it set in Gadara. The story goes that Jesus encounters a possessed man and calls on the demon to emerge, demanding to know its name, as part of an exorcism. He finds that the man is possessed by a multitude of demons who give the collective name of Legion. Fearing that Jesus will drive them into an abyss, they beg him to instead send them into a herd of pigs, which he does. The pigs then stampede into a nearby lake and drown. This story reminds me of Morel's fight with Leol, which took place in an underground chapel, so we're already starting to get some religious symbolism to this fight. I would compare Leol's ability to call upon other people's powers to the man in the story being possessed by multiple demons. Morel's final attack that kills Leol looks eerily similar to a menorah, connecting him to Jesus, who was Jewish. And the final similarity would be that Leol's cause of death is drowning, just like the pigs of Gadara. Now, the fictional novel by Ramo-san actually takes place in Africa, which one could say is a reference to Morel's fight with Chitu, but again, a good translation is nearly impossible to find. One story that I was able to get a little more detail out of, though, was Ramo-san's Mannequin Night, or the Night of Human Models. It's easy to draw comparisons between this story and Knov's mission to set portals within the palace. In Ramo-san's Mannequin Night, a boy sneaks into a spooky mansion. As he sneaks around the mansion, he starts to hear the voice of a woman, and eventually finds a body model in the basement, which comes to life. In Knov's case, it is not the voices or the mannequin he fears, but the N of the Chimera ants, and the thought of being turned into a puppet, or their personal plaything. Of course, there could be deeper references in this story, since both Pito and Morel use Nen puppets. And so that's going to wrap up another episode of Tales of Nerdia. Sorry this one took so long to release. Feel free to follow me on Twitter, where I'm going to start posting updates on video progress, teaser images for videos as I get close to completion, and more. Thank you all for your support. I will see you all very soon. Bye.